So very much for staying with us on the program this morning. We want to begin talking on the notes of politics. I'm joined by two gentlemen on the program. Abraham of Yahweh, legal practitioner, and next to him is no other person than Agarise Idubo, who is a public affairs commentator. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Elections, the exercise itself may have been sort of behind us, but the fallout, it's beginning to, more than ever before, create basis for us to continue to have this discussion about our electoral process in this country. Accusations and counter-accusations amongst political parties. And then right in the middle of it, it will appear INEC is in the eye of the storm. A lot of persons have had cause to, in the last couple of days, do an analysis of what the electoral process in this country has been like right from 1999 till date. That's a 20-year period, obviously. Some have come to say we take one step forward, we take maybe 10 or even many more backward. In particular, they do a juxtapose of the 2015 and the 2019 general elections. Let me begin with you, Abraham of Yahweh. In all of this, what does your sentiment support? That we continue to work on this process until it becomes perfect, or at least something near perfect, or that we start looking at alternatives to choose those who become leaders in this country?
I think very greatly. I had the privilege of monitoring the elections within my domain, and also had the privilege of sharing information with other monitors across the country by way of various groups where we found ourselves. I think I will also wrestle with the temptation of calling names and specifics, but one thing is clear, that these 2019 elections have exposed the deficiencies in our electoral system. And let's make no mistakes about it. The era of saying the Electoral Act, which naturally ought to bring about this renaissance in our electoral process, was few days before the election. I think that from this month of March, the National Assembly should commence the process of changing our electoral process, the process of electing our leaders. Let's go to the electronic voting. There's no basis for this arrangement where, with the bare eyes of observers and no candidates in this century, you still see stuffing of ballot boxes. It's unfortunate. You see the way elections are conducted. Even the security agencies are now physically involved. Persons want to play such neutral role. I feel the best bet for us at this time is, make no mistakes about it, from this month of March, let the process of changing our electoral laws, our electoral structure commence. Let's not wait till we get to 2023. From this month of March, it must commence. And I think that is just the only way to go. If not, it will be seen clearly that government in itself do not want the people to freely elect who will naturally govern them. To my mind, ordinarily, I feel the process, the 2019 election is a retrogression from where we are coming from. We are taught that there's already a paradigm shift from the way pre-2015. I had expected that the gains of 2015, from which Emmanuel meant once elections are conducted, and I tell you, from the processes as estrayed by Mikey Gigini on one of the stations the other time with respect to elections, I had thought that we would have gotten some steps forward. But the outcomes are showing very strongly that the way we are going with respect to our electoral process is not the right way to go if we truly want to get there. I feel that this manual way of doing things, let's forget about ballot papers. Forget about it. Let's go straight to electronic voting. And at a point, at the time the elections are ending by 3 p.m., the results are reflected immediately. We do not need one security officer who, with the gun bought with taxpayers' money, will kill that individual who insists on wanting the right thing to be done. We have seen in these last elections how security agents have physically participated in the process by way of precluding voters from voting, by way of ensuring that they entrench, and make no mistakes about it. The interest was across board, across political parties, the two major political parties. Where they had their strongholds, they were able to manipulate the process to immune to their benefits, And for the other party, where they had their strongholds. But we will agree with me that the party in power had a field day with majority of the areas where this unfortunate incident took place. To my mind, the time to begin, the president refused to sign the electoral laws, bills into law, the amended law, bills into law, simply because he said it was too close to the election. So many issues were raised. I think that it is very early in the day now, March 2019. They should look at it. If there are inclusions they need to put, and they have a whole lot of 4 years now to prepare for a process which will be seamless. We are tired. If not by 2023, Nigerians will not leave their houses. If the true will of the people cannot be reflected in the elections, there is no basis to go out to cast the ballot.
Incidentally, the international observers who had been here in the course of the election are also lending their voices to the call for President Muhammadu Buhari to quickly take another look at the amendments to the Electoral Act, and then as much as possible give thoughts to the need to assent to it. But let me come to you now, Agarise Dubo. The Senate has said it will probe the so-called militarization of the elections that we just held in this country. Some persons have said we've never had it this badly in terms of the presence, substantial presence of the military in the course of elections like this. Can we say we attribute that to the peculiarity of the circumstances around the process this time?
Yeah, let me thank you very much for inviting me to this program. Only yesterday I was somewhere we were talking, not to educated persons. One of them just said, "This is the worst test." This is the worst test. So, I mean, as far as I was concerned, I expressed that it's not been like this before. In an election or in a process where over 100 persons have been killed. In Sierra Leone, only 6 were killed. The country is canceled all elections, only 6. In Nigeria, we have, as at yesterday, they killed about 5 people watching. So if 100 persons have been killed for a process, then a lot of things are wrong with it. Now you have military men showing force everywhere. And for this election, security, to my mind, has been at the lowest. And federal government budgeted 50 billion naira for security. There are about 24 security agencies involved in the coordination. I mean, there are police can give instructions. I mean, who is the head? Who coordinates security? No. Civil defense, customs, immigration, all of them working, at very cross purpose. Nobody is coordinating a police officer. I just want to ask, who is in charge of security for this purpose? This is a civil event. Right. It's not a military event. So you see a soldier will not want to take a police officer. Who is in charge? If an NSO or a CSO, this CSO can be a custom officer or a retired custom officer. What is the CSO? The chief security officer.
For the process.
For the process. Every other person must fall in line. Whether you are soldier, you are police, you are once the CSO is in charge. Whether it's an immigration man that you appoint the CSO, it takes charge of the processes. But you don't have a policeman cannot give you an instruction. I'm a soldier. I mean, in Rivers, for instance, soldiers perform, which again is an aberration. It's not a proper thing. How can soldiers come to the field to play? They are not part of the team. When they took over in Rivers, as I speak to you, my brother, they are still laying siege in Rivers. Why wouldn't you announce election results? You've announced the House of Assembly results, which are also attendant to part of the governorship election. So for me, the security operatives, looking at how much money was voted for that was not well. Look, talking about, yes, they don't need voting. I think we can get there. I was in America when the Americans had the half year whatever elections now.
The midterms.
Midterm election.
Right.
And I went with my younger brother to vote. I went in to vote. I entered the vote. You know, it was a hall like this. I entered inside. I watched him come to vote, and the way he did it,
Right.
like he said, you just go there, accredit yourself. You know, all the questions will ask you, where do you live?
Right.
That's all they ask you. Where do you live? So when you say where you live, they know where you're supposed to go. You know. So he just did that petition. He went there, and he has voted. And he said to me, at the dashboard, he saw how many votes for the person he voted for. It's like, somebody was talking about the PUB machine, PUB polling unit machine. Yeah. The polling unit machine can be like an ATM machine where you can take your ATM card and just slot. I mean, there are other things that can assess your whatever, whether your thumbprint or whatever, can identify who you are, and you just cast your vote, and you're off. No ballot pass snatching, no shooting. Nobody's coming to harass you and say, okay, fine, I must kill Agarese because he wants to carry ballot box. So very honestly, it might not be easy for us to get there now, because between now and 2023, the process. One, you must be able to. Okay, I hear people say we can have generators to power the things at the various.
That again raises concern.
At the various areas where we don't have light. But I won't say all of this. I think we will get there. But even this one we have just done, elections were held at the various polling units. Results were announced. So what now became the problem? Why did you need to? I won't use the word hold. Why did you need to keep the results for so long? Even in areas where you don't have challenges of, difficulty in movement and all that, you still keep election results for 24 hours, for 48 hours. That to me is suggestive of the fact that some people are just trying to subvert the system. So I will, before we get to where we are both thinking about, I think we also must be honest enough. Look at the issue of agents. Your agent is supposed to be your own eye at the polling unit. But most of these agents were picked a day or two before the election, and they were not probably taught what to do. Some agents just sit down as if they were asked to come and sit down there. Your agent, if he's well tutored, should have his eyes on the ball. He should be watchful. He should be watching those who are coming. The process. A man brings a voter's card. He gives it to my brother, who is the PO. And the voter's card belongs to you, and I brought it. So the agent is supposed to look at the process. But most agents just sit down there and be chatting away. So very honestly, they themselves also constitute a lot of problems in the process. Because when at the polling units, which is of course the baseline, the results from there will build up to the collation center, to the whatever until it gets to the final point. Right. So if it is wrong at that point, it becomes wrong forever. But some could be right at that point, but they become wrong at the other side because somebody is trying to be funny. Why will you delay announcing the results now? Why? If you don't have an idea. He talked about government in power. Government in power has more power to rig election. And
Is that what they call the power of incumbency?
Yes, they have more power to rig election. But again, it's unfair. When you're in a process where things are not done fairly, you must also think about the general interest of the people. Because this one now, I mean, of course, you are aware of trace from the six areas where they suspended elections. 5 have the PDP leading, 1 APC leading. And the 5 where the PDP is leading, they are also trying to rain brimstone. If you do anything to these elections, we'll fight. And must we or can we afford to have a nation in crisis? Because somebody has been a little bit stupid. If an election is suspended, somebody will be punished. Why? What is overvoting? What's overvoting? I don't know if you voted in the last election, but if you did, what is overvoting? Even if you didn't use the card, the machine, and you decide to use the manual system where you don't even need to use the machine, fine. Register is there. Register is there. So if register is there, I come, you tick my name there, I go and vote. So if you count the ballot papers and the number of names ticked, it should tally. Even without using the machine.
The card reader.
The card reader.
Right.
if you choose to do the manual one, fine, my machine is not working. There is the register. Our names are there. You tick according to how we come. So very honestly, there should be no difference between the number of votes cast and the accredited persons. But now you hear 150,000 people, council votes. How? So these are issues at times I start to get worried about.
There are a bunch of issues we should be looking at before we're done with this conversation. Let me come back to Oviawe. You are not an IT expert, but more than ever before, the call for us to adopt full-fledged electronic form of voting has become even more clarion, as it were.
Very well.
But then again, it raises the question of whether or not that process in itself is insulated against malpractice and all forms of sharp practices.
Yes, the reason why I will continue to canvass for that process is that the challenges that we may be confronted with respect to manipulating the process will be from a point.
Okay.
As against you have scattered across the entire country. Granted that when such elections are to be conducted, you still will have your agents at the situation room, like a dashboard where we all see what apparently is happening. And clearly, your agents at that time will be IT experts. And before we will get to the elections, the electoral umpire should be able to tell us what is the strength of the system for which the voting is going to run. Is it open for hackers to come and have a fee day? And it's not new. The Nigerian Bar Association, for example, in the last 2 years, in the last 2 elections, I have voted from the comfort of my room. Unlike we used to have before, we go to the various bar house to go and vote, they collect and send. From the comfort of my room, we vote from there. Yeah, people say the process have been hacked, but I tell you, it's easier to come by than you have where you need to deploy police officers. The Nigerian police will deploy 1,000. They tell you 20,000 police officers have been deployed. And you do that across the 36 states, the various 774 local governments, the wards and the units. You do that, you have snatching of ballot papers. You will find no situation where any man will be said to have been killed. If we have value for life, if the government have value for life, with the number of persons that have gone down recklessly, some of them have been killed by trigger-happy military officers who haven't been interested party in the process. See every other person on the other end as an enemy, and at the slightest provocation, if truly there is even any, they pull the trigger. As harmless youths, as it were, I feel that we must commence. The process is easy. What did it take banks to now ensure that you must have your BVN? That for you to be able to run an account, you must have your BVN. How long did it take them? Anybody that wants to do any transaction in this country, you must be captured digitally. You go to the ATM at your comfort. With your card, you access your account. You do your transactions yourself. You go home quietly. If the private sector can do it, I think government is mightily empowered. With the money INEC is calling as being their budget for the elections, printing of ballot papers, feeding of dogs for the elections, even billions of naira. Even though I didn't see any dog, or we had no report because we had asked ourselves at the various group and fora. Did you see any dog? I only saw one. And it was the civil defense that actually brought that dog. And from the numbers, with those money, if you put them together, and with the funds to which you deploy the various security agencies, I am convinced that electronic voting will become a reality. Because make no mistakes about it, Nigerians in itself, they are tired of this process of going to queue. Yes, people may say some persons are not literate. But how does a blind man vote? If a blind man that cannot see can still cast the ballot, it's a process. Today you see illiterates, they know how to operate the ATM machines. When you see the old woman, he will call you and say he will put a card and help me do one. Type your password. She will type it herself. She doesn't even want you to see it. So we can't get there. And I think that if any government who truly want our electoral system to be strong and viral must think deeply in that direction. And I feel that mindless, there is no process that have no limitations. And some of the limitations could be that, yes, if we get electronic voting, the government of the day with one strike can manipulate, hackers can come in. However, countries have been doing it over the years, and I think that the challenges is far lesser, and it's far lesser than we will have like we're currently having now. Elections have been conducted, for example, in Rivers. They have since announced all those who won in the various houses of assembly, whereas the election was conducted side by side, the same day, the same time, the same venue. Those who casted the ballot for the House of Assembly did same for that of the governorship. House of Assembly have been declared in some areas, and they are telling you that of the governorship are been suspended. You see it everywhere, but if it's electronic voting, they say election stops by 3 p.m. By 3:01.
Finish.
By 3:01.
You can't vote.
Yes, no.
The platform shuts down.
No.
It shut down, and the result comes up. Because where you have manipulations is when by they tell you to wait for another 15 or 30 minutes for you to generate the process. No. At that 3:01, because from the dashboard where you vote, you should be able to appreciate the fact that those who are at the dashboard end should see the scores coming. And again, it's your thumbprint that activates it. If the process is so tailored, I see no reason why we cannot get there. I am wrestling with the temptation of not to extract deeply what we have found ourselves by way of this 2019 election. To say the least, it is the biggest catastrophe that has visited our land, and the only way we can liberate ourselves from what has happened in this 2019, even though I know that those who are active participants in this charade shall water the bad seed they have planted, I feel the direction and the way to go is electronic voting. Yes. Let's advance towards that direction. Let's start it from March 2019, because it is the right way to go. It's as important as governance itself. How will the people will naturally not support a government who they didn't vote into power. They forcefully find their way. They have no choice in the process, and as such, if you support a government, it will be participatory. If you come out a month to vote for XYZ, we saw what happened in the House of Assembly elections in Nigeria. The issue of vote buying would have been reduced. If I can vote for the comfort of my room, for example, like I told you in the ABL elections, how will the president who is in Abuja, even his agent in Benin, how does he come and meet me in my room and want to know who I voted for? When they know that, because we saw it in several process, I think that is the way we should go. Electronic voting, and electronic voting.
Yeah.
Nobody should blackmail us with the fact that, do you know the challenges? Let us get there. It is the way to go. Other countries are doing it, and we are having this less issue. Enough is enough for the loss of life. Over 100 persons have lost their life in just one process. It's unfortunate, and I feel that we must not think in that direction. We must think differently. Electronic voting is the way to go to check this nonsense that have been visited on our country.
I'm going to draw on your thoughts again in the course of this discussion we're having. But let me come back to Idubo once again. In the last 19 days thereabouts, we have effectively been looking at the role of INEC in conducting elections in this country. More than ever before, there has been a question mark of sorts over the independence or otherwise of INEC. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they are not as independent as their name tries to explain to us. In a system where, okay, let's take the national election. People were protesting that, oh, this was done, this was that was that. And the man will say to you, drop your letter, drop the complaint in our office. Before the process or processes come to an end, we'll look at before we end the process. But those protests were kept there. Whether you shouted that something was wrong at the polling unit or whatever, the man did not even consider those things you were trying to explain to him on the floor. He went ahead to announce the results. Again, we're also aware that persons pointed guns at people to announce false results. So that does not, to me, show independence. Maybe that's where we should come now to this electronic voting. I mean, there will be no gun 13 persons. If it was an electronic, I mean, the thing pops up, results are there. It will not point gun at the machine. So very honestly, the independent electoral, the independent National Electoral Commission, to my mind, has not shown so much independence, because the powers that be everywhere, like he said, in those states where the governor is ex-party, he takes charge of the INEC. They do so much. Some persons have been, we are also aware how many POs have been, sacked, arrested, and all that for collecting monies from various people. So to my mind, they have not shown. An independent person should say, look at you straight to your face, and say, this is the result. But if I look at you straight to your face, and I look at your body language, and I get swayed, then I'm not independent. I'm not independent. So a man who is independent can say, okay, fine, this is it, and that's it. But how said all of this, my brother? How in our own kind of country, how can you be independent when the man tells you, if you announce this result, your family will be at risk? So until all of these things are checked, and that is why I will support wholeheartedly the electronic, voting system, where nobody knows anybody. You come, in the comfort of your home, or you go to the machine, you just thumbprint, and nobody is asking you for ballot paper, nobody is forcing you to announce the result, because the result is generated from the system. So it's not a question of you now saying, you must say this. The system generates the result. So at the time it's going to generate the result, you have no power over it. So honestly, looking at the kind of money 185 billion naira put in this process, to me is colossal. Colossal.
I asked a guest on this program a few days back if we actually got return on investment on that money, because take it or leave it, it's a form of investment. It's huge, and in your words, it's colossal. Did we get return on those investments? He said no.
That's where I'm coming. That's where I'm coming. You have system where military are taking 50 billion put for security, and 100 persons have been killed. One life is worth more than 50 billion, but 100 people have been killed, and they're even still killing, and they'll even kill more on Saturday, because the rerun will be on the 23rd.
But is it not pessimistic to say that the elections are never?
But they will kill. They will stay killed, because people become more desperate. Now, in those areas where they're going to be rerun, you will not pack people from another area to come there. Okay, look at what I mean. People should be punished for electoral malpractices. Edo, for instance, Edo exported talks to Akwa Ibom. I mean, it's a shame. Assuming they had killed those boys in Akwa Ibom, 10 buses loaded with young persons. You took to Akwa Ibom and they were arrested, and they said they are from Edo State. You see, and nobody is talking about it. Nobody is raising any issues. And they mentioned that these boys are from Edo State. Nobody's talking about, assuming those boys were killed, 150 of them. Assuming they were killed. So until some persons start to be punished for errors, then the system will remain like this. People are saying, okay, oh, it has come and gone, let us accept it. No, you must still question the process if you think it's not right. It's not a question of just letting it go because it has, it has come and gone. Let's not bother about it. If you think it needs to be questioned, of course you question it. So at the end of the day, you can go forward from there. If you just become complacent and say, okay, fine, it has come and gone, then you don't do an appraisal which is proper. So to my mind, we must all sit down. I mean, as we are talking now, maybe those who are listening in the position of authority to say, okay, fine. We are thinking, if the next election is not even in 2023, there are seven more elections.
In between.
Yes, in between. Right. There are 7 more elections coming up, staggered. But having said the general election will be okay, fine, 2023. But having said all of this, between now and then, I agree with you. Let us start to use the polling unit machine, where you can just go, like you say, you can vote in the comfort of your room. Nobody will ask you who you voted for, and it's even convenient for you, because the apathy, so to speak, is that people will find it difficult to come out. I mean, why would I come and line up there? But if they could vote in the comfort of their rooms, I mean, I'm sure more persons will be involved in the process.
We're wrapping up now, but just last question before we tie it up all together. Of Yahweh, we've talked about the independence or otherwise of INEC. He has talked extensively about that. Some persons they have expressed discomfort with the fact that the laws provide for the sitting president to be the one who appoints the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And they say until we have a paradigm shift along that line, there's little or nothing we can do about establishing the independence of INEC.
Yes, while I do not agree absolutely, because if rather than rob the president from the powers of appointing the chairman of INEC,
Right.
let's put certain criteria on which such persons should be appointed. What is the person's pedigree? That is also subjective, subjective in itself. But the summary of it is that if we find ourselves, wake up tomorrow, you and I wake up tomorrow and find ourselves in a country that has now become patriotic, you agree, where people have value for their names, where people have value from their family background, where people believe in protecting family names and heritage. The man is given such power. But we have an overbearing executive across the states and the federal government. Every sitting governor, every sitting president wants an appointee that should be at his whips, that should be subjected to his whips and caprices. So you will find that in the entire process, where the president appoints one who he has reached with. Yes, it's common among this entire process. But when we have a process which punishes anybody who does contrary to his oath of office, when you pay dearly for it, I feel that we will get there absolutely. Because we do not have a president who naturally who ought to be patriotic, and by actions or inactions have shown not to be patriotic, that call for the president to be robbed of such power naturally will pervade the entire system. Just to make the point that we are in a society today where the president have an overbearing force and power over every other thing. He controls the military, he controls the police. He can withdraw the security of the INEC chairman and the guy is vulnerable.
But that's a systemic arrangement, isn't it?
I am trying to tell you that rather than build strong, the summary of what I'm trying to say on a nutshell is that rather than build strong institutions, we are building strong men. We have a running system where the Inspector General of Police is not by appointment, it's by the next person who have walked through the rank tirelessly and is the next in line, just like you have found in the judiciary. You don't need to fight. You know I am the next person there, and if you get your hands soiled all through the ladder, you can't get there. We have a process that runs autopilot. We do not subject it. The president needs to retire over 180 persons from the police force because he wants to determine who becomes the Inspector General of Police. Such individuals will listen even to the sneeze of Mr. President to bring anybody down. How about the military? The military have never been this involved in elections in the past. You see them carrying arms to the polling centers. They ask people to leave, shake them away, and if you cough, you are brought down instantly. And I feel that we run and build strong men like we have. After you have one man who has the capacity, his name is the president. But because he has become a lord unto himself, he gives instructions to the police. That's why you can find what is happening in Rivers, where the military have taken over elections. Some of them are even casting ballots in areas they are not there because they have been given directive to wreak havoc. We saw in Akwa Ibom how the military invaded the house of the commissioner. We saw it everywhere on video. He has CCTV camera. What are they looking for? A day before the elections? All the invasion, did you find arms? What intelligence are you trying to share? And like you rightly mentioned, we saw in these elections where the military failed in all ramifications to take directive from the police. In civil events like this, it is the commissioner of police of that state that is in charge, and all of that security apparatus must fall in line. The point being made finally on this point is that beyond INEC being independent, we must adopt a process which frustrates any arrangement for which the election itself can be manipulated.
And on that note, you have strongly recommended the electronic system of voting.
Precisely.
I think that's where we're going to leave this discussion so far this morning. Our first discussion actually on the program. I've been talking with a legal practitioner, Abraham of Yahweh, and then next to him is a public affairs commentator, Agarese Idubo. Gentlemen, we appreciate the time you spent with us on the program this morning, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Coming up next is a discussion not just on the building collapse in Lagos, but how we should begin to retweak the process, especially with a look at how the regulatory framework in this country is put to work in itself, and how, of course, we can look at factors responsible for these incessant incidents of building collapse across the country. Do stay with us.